What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and in today's episode of the Fighting Game Tutorial Series, we are going to be going over cleaning up our game mode and improving it further, part 2. So specifically in today's episode, we're going to be converting more blueprint functions to code, we're going to be removing unused events, and we're going to be improving the performance of our game mode. If you've been following along with the series, you'll know I've been doing a lot of cleanup lately, and this cleanup is so that we can be ready for more advanced topics like rollback netcode, AI, and story mode. I want to make sure everything's nice and clean and easy for us to use. That way we can get into these other things without having to rework and revamp a lot of older systems frequently. We can do it in one pass and be happy with it. If you want to get caught up in the series before checking out this episode, you can see how we've done everything from our different attacks, our commands, our health bars, and a lot more. I'll link you to the entire playlist in the top right corner to check that out and see how to do those things. Alternatively, if you don't care about that and you just care about cleaning up your game mode, that's perfectly fine. I can link you to one of the first episodes where we set up our match flow, as a lot of this behavior comes from those episodes. I'll do so here in the top right corner. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started. So this is a code and blueprint tutorial series. As I mentioned, we are going to be converting some logic from the game mode blueprint to our code game mode. So let's go to our game mode blueprint. So blueprints, functional BPs, game modes, default game mode BP. We have some space from the events that we already removed, and we're going to continue this process today. The next one I want to tackle is our event trigger match win effects. So this is a function in our game mode BP, and all it's doing right now is adding a slow motion effect when the match is won. So we have this winning character if we want to apply specific things on that character, but as I mentioned in the previous episode, we're not yet. But if this character is valid, we are setting the global time dilation, or the time dilation for the entire game, to 0.2. It's a ratio, so this is 20% of the regular speed. Then we have a delay for 0.5 seconds, so we keep the global time dilation at 20% for 0.5 seconds, and then we reset the global time dilation back to default. This is all under the event trigger match win effects, which is a blueprint implementable event that we created in our fighter template game mode. So here's our fighter template game mode, and if we scroll down, we can find this function right here. It is blueprint callable, blueprint implementable event, and it's called trigger match win effects, taking in a winning character which defaults to null pointer. So if there's no winning character, then it's a draw, and we're not doing the special effects. So this is easy enough to convert to code, and we can even use the same function if we want and just not make it a blueprint implementable event. So first of all, let's see where this is being used. So trigger match win effects. So right click and find references. And I'll hit the binoculars to find in all files. You can see this is not being called in the blueprints anywhere. So what we can do is remove this entire function. It will no longer be a blueprint implementable event. It's gone from the default game mode BP. So we can compile and save, and we can go create our functions, the code. So fighter template game mode.h, I'm going to take away blueprint implementable event from this function. It is going to be a U function blueprint callable, so we can call it in the blueprint if we want to. But instead, I am going to create it in the code. So if we go to fighter template game mode.cpp and scroll down to where we want to make this function, I'm going to make it below round draw. So void a fighter template game mode : trigger match win effects, and it takes in a fighter template character pointer. We call it winning character, and it defaults to null pointer, but we don't have to set that in the CPP. So the first thing we were doing in the blueprint function was checking if winning character was valid. So if winning character. If it's not valid, we can do something else, but right now we're just checking if it's valid. And if it is valid, we were setting the global time dilation to 20%. And we can do this with a uGameplay statics function. Set global time dilation. And we can manually put this number in here, but we'll probably want to make it a variable. Additionally, for these uGameplay statics functions, we typically need to include the world context because they can be called from anywhere. So we need to know what world we're applying this to. And in this case, we can use anything. We can use an actor from the world. We can use the world itself. So typically I just use get world. So get world and 0.2. Then we had a delay for 0.5 seconds. Once 0.5 seconds were up, we were going to set the uGameplay statics, set global time dilation, get world, and set it back to 1.0 or 100%. Between these function calls would be our delay, but instead of a delay, we're going to use a timer. So if we go into the fighter template game mode and we can scroll down toward the bottom, we can create an F timer handle, and we're going to call this match win timer handle. Timer handle for match win effects. Then we're going to need a float value as well. So if I actually move this here, I can put them next to each other. So the amount of time match win effects are active. And we can make this a float match win duration. Or match win effects duration. And we'll call this match win effects timer handle. Something like that will do the trick. We can make the match win effects duration a U property of edit anywhere blueprint read write with a category equals game mode settings if we want to. This will allow us to edit it in the blueprint so we can change the time very easily if we want to. And once we have these two variables, we want to go back to the fighter template game mode CPP, set this in the constructor. We don't have to set the timer handle, but we should set the duration. So match win effects duration equals, and we were using 0.5 F as our default, or half of 1 second. That's fine to set in here as the default. Then let's go back into the header file one more time. We need to make a function that we can call when this timer finishes. So I will do void end match win effects, and we'll say stop special effects upon a character winning the match. And let's call it void stop match win effects. I think that makes more sense. And if we go back into the game mode CPP now, I want to go below my trigger match win effects function here. You void a fighter template game mode stop match win effects. And here is where we want to set our global time dilation back to 1.0, because this is the function we're going to call when our timer completes. So now all that's left is we have to set up our timer. To do so, we can get world get timer manager dot set timer. In set timer, we have a few parameters we have to use. So the first one is our timer handle, which is going to be match win effects timer handle. Then we need the actual object we're going to be using for this function call that we're about to set up. And we're going to pass in this because this game mode is the one that we want to call stop match win effects on when this timer completes. And then afterward, we have to pass it the function. We can do so by putting the ampersand and then the type, a fighter template game mode, stop match win effects. Then we have the duration, which is our match win effects duration. And then I'm going to say false here. This last parameter is determining if this timer should restart when it finishes. So if you wanted to keep repeating this process, but we don't at this point, we want to say false because we want to call this once and we will be good to go. So now once this duration completes, we are going to go to this object and call this function. In here, we'll set the global time dilation back to 1.0 or 100% and we'll be good to go. I also want to convert my constructor to an initializer list for the game mode. This is something that I have a specific episode on, so if you're interested in the benefits of initializer lists, And you can check that episode out. They're a little bit faster. They typically look a little bit cleaner. But basically, instead of setting these variables in the constructor body, we can format it like this. So if we put a colon, then super with parentheses, then we put a comma and initialize every variable after that, we're using our initializer list. And I can actually set this up to initialize all the variables in our game mode. So I'll go through one by one, setting it to the same value that I was already setting it to in the constructor body. So just like in the constructor body, I'm setting match state to eMatchState : e underscore default, match when effects duration to 0.5f, currency to give 20, num hit stop frames 0, num rounds 2, round time 99, is round time infinite false, is timer active false, is using complex hurt boxes false, and should skip all character entrances false. Once all your variables are set in the initializer list, you can then clear out the entire constructor body since we're not doing anything else in there. So there you go, guys. That is more cleanup for our game mode and our fighter template project. If you've been enjoying the series and this is helping you learn, then please subscribe and consider joining the Patreon, YouTube membership, or Discord subscriptions that help benefit the channel. If you ran into any problems while following this tutorial or any of my tutorials, feel free to join the Discord community. I would be happy to help you out, and there is a link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.